What's going on, guys? This is TM25MD, and I will be going over the Duelyst patch 1.96 update that happened a couple days ago. I recorded this like right after my Extinction event live, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to delete all that footage. Might as well just go over this after the fact. So today I'll just try and make a brief commentation on the update, and try and keep this relatively, short. And so yeah, rotation. They got rid of the rotation. So Shimjar is now back in the constructed ladder. There is no more unlimited / unranked ladder anymore, which is a little bit sad to see. I guess if you want to test decks, you would have to go on the ranked ladder or play with a friend. So a little sad to see the unlimited ladder go, but I see their reasonings why they got rid of it. A lot of people were just playing unlimited because they preferred that more, or B, they were just testing decks for ranked, right? I know I did that a little bit. So no more rotations, no more unranked ladder. Mixed feelings about this. Balance, they got rid of, nerfed some cards, buffed some cards, reworked it, because Shimjar is being added in, so obviously you have to, try and balance the patch. And before I even talk about it, I think all of these, this overall balance patch was a step in the right direction. Obviously, I would like to see some things go. For me, I think the concept of trials is not good for the game, but it's already happened, so I guess we just have to, work with what we've got and try and improve from there. So, yeah, so let's dive right into it. We've got Vanar Kingdoms, Songhai from 6 to 5. This is insane. You can make like an artifact list. I know I played Pow in the Kissa, and he had an artifact Ardeon list with just tons of healing, Azure Herald, Scintillas, Trinity Oath, Circle of Life, Perion's Claim, all the removal, Tempest and whatnot, and he just stacked artifacts. So Regalia into Songhai on turn 2, turn 3, when going second can be some pretty insane. You have 8 attack, and you need to deal, you need to hit your opponent for greater than 3 damage, greater than 2 damage, at least 3 times, and that's pretty difficult to do early on, right? You need something with 3 attack to get that initial charge down. Then you need to hit with your general, so that means you'll have to take 8 damage. And then if you happen to have something like Blood Tier Alchemist, then you can get rid of it that way. So it's very difficult, to say the least, to get rid of that combination. So, let alone if they happen to have 2 Regalias and a Songhai, then it's like next to impossible to remove unless you have like EMP and whatnot. So be wary of that. Peacekeeper 5/5 to 6/6. I don't think it's that big of a deal. They're much better 7-drops in my opinion. You can do things like Prominence, you can do Grandmaster's Ear, Titan, and if you don't want to run any of those, you can run EMP on your top end. That's been nerfed spoilers to a 7/7, and that's still, I think, better than Peacekeeper. Yeah, the 6 health makes it a lot more difficult to remove now, but I just think there are just more value-centric 7-drops in Vanar right now. So Radiant Dragoon, his ability can target himself, not a big deal. So basically, if he's the only thing on board, you play him turn 1. He's a 3/5, just basically a Silverguard Knight without provoke, so he's not as good. I don't think he'll see play as before. Radiant Dragoon is a 3-drop, which means he's contesting a very valuable spot in Vanar. So you've got things like Scintilla, Sunforged Lancer, Silverguard Knights, Arclight Sentinel, etc. So you got a little bit of a contention there. So I don't think you'll see that play, but it's interesting that they can target itself. I've always expected it to target itself. but now it can officially. So Solarius from 6 mana to 5 mana, 3/3 to 2, 3/3 to 3/2. Sorry about that. The only real reason you would run Solarius would be in Titanlist to draw some extra cards, but I think you can alleviate that a little bit more with the steady curve and proper replaces. I always say that because it's true, especially in a mid-range list. And if you ever need that draw, you can just throw in some Spelljammers and Sojourners. And if you're running Argion, that 3 attack Sojourners pretty valuable, right? So, interesting change. I don't think it'll really do much, to be honest, though. So, yeah, moving on. Songhai, Bombard from 6 to 5. Still a very bad card. Doesn't matter, honestly. I mean, I guess if you happen to stick a lot of random minions, you can reactivate them. Cool, I guess, but it's unlikely, to be honest. Because usually your 1/1s and your 3/2s, because Keybeholder's back on ranked ladder, because that was the Shimsar card. Usually they'll already get value before the 5 mana mark, and if they do or don't, they'll probably be dead. It'll probably be killed, removed. So not an impactful card at all. Calligrapher, this is actually one of the biggest changes to Songhai, in my opinion. So you get 3 cards added to your hand immediately. This is very powerful, right? Especially if you're, above, 7 mana, right? You can potentially get things like Inner Focus, and you can reactivate your Calligrapher, or like a Zendo, because that was buffed, so to speak. I think this is a really good buff for Calligrapher. Usually it was just typically seen in the top ends of Arcanist Songhai lists. Now, or recently before, they were pretty much all high roll lists, so they usually topped off at, what's it called? Trinity Wing. But this is an excellent thing to have. If you're very low on cards, you top deck this, you get those cards immediately, and you can start right back up again. So, Cold Fist, 4/4 to 5/4. It's more threatening now, obviously with the increase to attack. But usually you just use this like a Primus Fist. It says random minion on which minion will get 2 attack. But you can obviously try and limit that by your positioning. And even if you play this naked, it's a 5/4. It's like a Geomancer. Except it's 1 mana cheaper, so it's it's a big body for 4 mana. So yeah, it's interesting to see this, how people incorporate that. But usually if you're playing like a mid-range aggro list, your forged mana slot is already highly contested in things like Spelljammer, Bakazori if you're playing Kalios, Night Watcher now. You can run Night Watcher, to help Songhai deal with Obelisk. I know that's a very good tech for Songhai. I know many decks passed, a lot of tournament winning decks with Songhai. Used to run Night Watcher to deal with Vetruvian in tournament, so we might see a return of that. And obviously Thunderhorn, even though it was nerfed, it's still a very powerful minion. Katara from backstab 3 to backstab 1. It's about time. Like the fact that it has right off the bat 4 attack, that means it can clear the 1/4 minions with just a juxtaposition. Which is a bit insane, which means you can develop a 4-drop of your own if you're going first, juxtaposition their minion, kill it, and develop 2 minions of value, right? And your opponent has nothing, so they have to come back pretty hard. They also can just be turn 1, Mist Dragon Seal, Killing Edge, and deal 9 to you for turn 2. And that's insane for a minion that only costs 1 mana. So it makes sense that this was long overdue. I mean, like, I'm surprised this hasn't happened a lot earlier. But it's here now, and that's good to see. I don't expect to see people play this. I expect people just to play, if anything, Kaido Assassin or Primus Fist, Bloodthier Alchemist, Azure Herald, Healing Mystic, pretty much anything else besides this. Because even with Mist Dragon Seal, right, it's only going to do 3 damage, which means things like Azure Herald and anything with 4 health will still survive. So you're not getting as much value as you did before. So better off playing just Kaido Assassin. Kaido Assassin does 4 damage. Manakite Drifter, 3/3 to 5/5. This is a 4 mana minion. You get 2 mana crystals when it builds. So you're playing something on 4 mana and essentially passing for 2 turns with this minion, and you get to have 8 mana, right, when this thing builds, unless you have Timekeeper. Then you get to have 7 mana on 5. When it builds. The stats sucked, but now it might be considered because it's a 5/5. But the main problem with this card is you have to wait 2 turns for it to get value, unless you have, again, Timekeeper. So I don't think this will be too much of this card will be played too much. Why? For the same reasons as I said before. With Cold Fist, it's a highly contended spot in Songhai. Mask of Shadows, your general gains +1 attack. So for those that have played since like Alpha and Beta, Mask of Shadows was +2 attack with the extra attack from Backstab, and they got rid of that because people play that turn 1 for 2 mana. Turn 2 they play Cyclone Mask, and they're clearing every single 2-drop like it's nothing because you have 4 attack. So every 1/4, and there were like no 1/4s back in the day. So everything was like 2/3 for 2 mana minions, right? It was Primus Fist, Healing Mystic, Young Selthar, and I think those were pretty much it. Crystal Cloaker. Those are pretty much the big 2-drops back in the day. And Mask of Shadows and Cycle Mask just cleared every single one of them, no problem. And it got to the point where you're like, you cleared all their 2-drops, now you can start hitting the general for 4 damage. So that was a little bit pain in the butt. So they nerfed Mask of Shadows to just the backstab effect, and it finds out that nobody's playing it anymore because there's cards like Obscuring Blow, which gives you a permanent backstab for 1 mana, unless you are dispelled. But it's interesting to see this back now. It won't clear the 1/4s, but it will clear all the 2/3s, which is interesting. So we can possibly see some this card used in Artifact High. I know I haven't said that in a while, or haven't played that in a while, but that's one of my favorite archetypes to play back in the day. Before all the Mark or the 3rd Generals were even released, I played a lot of Artifact High. I took it to the finals of a tournament once, and that was fun. That was definitely fun. Though, if you were going to include this, I think Crescent Spear is a little bit more advantageous to run in your deck because it has the opportunity to, increase damage from your damaging spells like Phoenix Fire, Thunder Bomb, and Cobra Strike. So if you want to run Mask of Shadows, you'll have to remove some removal in the deck. But it allows you to have a higher damage ceiling. With things like Silhouette Tracer, which is usually run always in that list. So, all right, let's move on. Mind Cage Onei, 4/3 to 3/2. I think this is perfect. Means it dies to things like Rashta's Curse. Granted, they still get the spell, but it doesn't mean this minion gets to stick around a little bit longer. I mean, 4/3 for a 3 mana minion, that's pretty good stats, right? On top of its effects, so. The spells that can kill it now would be Incorn Gaze, which is a Abyssian 2 mana, 2 damage spell. It dies to Bone Swarm, Rash's Curse, Tempest. Not that Songhai can make a lot of use out of Tempest, so you often get a lot of value from it. So Tempest. What else that I can think of? Double mana Death Grip. Granted, they get 2 mana Death Grips, but maybe they already have a full hand at that point because you can drop this turn 1, so they only get 1 mana Death Grip. So double mana Death Grip will get it. I'm trying to think of what else. Lava Lance. Lava Lance will now clear it. That's back in the rotation from Shimshar. So a lot of things can clear it now. So you don't have to, deal with it that much. Or if they play it aggressively, which they usually don't, but if they happen to do it because they are ahead on health, and a head on board, they might play it aggressively. You can just punch it now, and it'll die. So, yeah, very good to see this change. Venom Drax 3-1 to 4-1. I don't think this matters at all. Its effect is pretty much how it's meant to be played. The fact now it can clear some extra minions that have 5 health. Excuse me, 6 health, which is pretty big. So it can clear things like not like Stormblade. What has 6 health? I can't really think of things that have 6 health. It's a very odd number. Very few minions have it. Twilight Sorcerer, the Tigress. I think that's about it that I can think of that has 6 health. Hisuku. Yeah, but it's pretty hard to, but now it gets all those 6 health minions, sure. So with the Mist Dragon Seal, gets 7 health minions, I guess. Sparrowhawk, 3. This is actually one of the big changes, from 3-2 to 3-3. So this thing no longer dies to Bone Swarm, Tempest, Lava Lance, and whatnot. So it has a chance of sticking around before you drop your Beast Sage. So you can get some value there. So this might see a lot more play in Arcanist spell high lists, right? And I think that's great. Granted, I don't think it absolutely needed this change, because I think the power was in its effect already. And the fact that it's already an Arcanist. So I think it already had a lot going for it. But having that increase in health now is just, I think, might set it a little bit over the top. So we'll see how that goes. Suzume Bachi, 1-3 to 1-4. Obviously a good buff, because it means it doesn't die to things like Phoenix Fire now. So that's pretty good. It doesn't die to Punch plus Blood Tear Alchemist, which is also a very common play. The fact that you can run this now in like your aggro lists with Chakra, so you can make like a mirror meld list. I know those were popular a little bit a while back. So you have more targets for mirror meld, especially with inner focus. So you can do like inner focus if you have a lot of mana. Suzume Bachi, inner focus, mirror meld, another inner focus, I guess. How much mana is that? 5, 6, 7 mana, and you get a bunch of high attack minions. I think, what is that? How many spells did we play? 3. So you get 2 4/5s with that can attack, so that's 8 damage. Granted, that is like a 4 or 5 card combo on 7 mana, but you can do a lot of things with that with the mirror melt. It's pretty powerful. Twilight Fox 3/4 now. It's a meme, it's a niche. The fact that it can stick around a little bit longer because of its survivability to Phoenix Fire and whatnot, sure, I guess, but you're really using it for its effect, so. Not that I'll see this card played in high ladder, but if you want to have some fun with it, you can contest tiles with it a little bit better now because it has 4 health, which is pretty big. So yeah, moving on. Last card. I think this is a buff. And a nerf in all in one, right? Grandmaster Zendo from 4/6 to 3/6, meaning that it does less damage with Killing Edge. Right, that 2 damage is significant, so that damage you can do with the combo of Zendo Killing Edge now is only 14 damage as opposed to 16 damage, which is pretty big. That 2 damage is significant when you're thinking about it in mid-range to aggro lists. That 2 damage is, right, that's an extra 2 damage. That's might cost you an extra Phoenix Fire, right, to do that extra 2 damage. So you're missing out there, but you're trading that little extra bit of damage for the potential to use Inner Focus on him, which is pretty big. You can do something like Inner Focus, Obscuring Blow on 8 damage, or excuse me, which is 10 damage on 8 mana. Granted, it is a 3-card combo, but it also does more than Zendo plus Killing Edge out of hand on 9 mana, which only does 8 damage. So you got a lot more wiggle room, right? If you're able to have this stick for a turn, who knows what the possibilities you could do. You can attack with him, deal 3 damage, Inner Focus again, right? Killing Edge, and that's another 7 damage, so that's 10 total. And then you end your turn, that's 17, so that already outweighs how much damage you can do for just, you know, killing edge, right, from the 4 attack Grandmaster Zendo. Granted, it costs you an extra card, but the potential to deal more damage is there, so it's good to see that. I like this change. I'm a bit scared of what the potential people can do with it, but we'll see how it goes. But this is a very powerful change. Moving on, Vetruvian, Cumulonimbus, 4 to 5. It's about time. I'm surprised this could easily be 6 mana with this powerful effect. But that's mostly if you draw multiple copies, so I understand why it's 5. That's probably the good number for it. Very good change. Happy to see it. A Duskweaver from 1/1 to 2/1. Pretty much you're just using this to get its to get a card from it, assigns first, second, or third wish. So the stats really don't matter in my opinion, unless you're running things like Blood Tier in your list, so it can trade with a 2/3 and then Blood Tier that and kill it. Sure, I guess. But I don't really see a big deal about this. Equality, Constraint, 2 mana, 2/1 mana. This card doesn't really see play, but you can make it work, I guess, a little bit better now. I think this is the one that inverses HP and whatnot in attack. It's really good for getting rid of buildings and obelisks. So it's a 1 mana removal for that in the mirror match. So I guess you can do some pretty nifty things with that. So it'll be interesting how people get creative with this card. Falcius from 3 mana to 4 mana. I see some people are like, oh, this is a good change, or maybe you shouldn't have increased the mana of it, but just make it a 3/2. So, you know, it's able to be cleared right away. I like both of those changes, but I like the 4 mana play a little bit better. I just don't like the fact that you can just go in on your second turn and just clear whatever and develop a 3/3 essentially for free. That's how powerful Falcius is. I think you should be able to reserve this a little bit more, and plus you can combo this with other cards in your deck, like, you know, Sandstorm Reader, and then play Falcius on 8 mana. Now that's a 9 mana play, or a Cumulonimbus plus Falcius, or Falcius plus Lost in the Desert on 7. Insane. Now that costs 8 mana, which is, you know, a big gap in things. So happy to see this change. I'd rather see this than it becoming a 3/2, honestly. Lost in the Desert is a 5 damage spell now. I think I would rather it have a design change, but I guess this is fine now, I guess. I think it's fine. We'll see how it goes. It still punishes like Thunderhorn. It still has very good synergy with Thunderhorn. But we'll see how it goes. This is something I would need to test more than everything else. Obviously, the damage reduction is nice, but I would have liked it to see like 4 damage. Granted, it has a little bit more of a positioning aspect to it, so the reward of it going off is higher, right? So for the 5 damage, so I understand that. But it's also 4 mana. I'll have to look and work on this some more. Obviously, it's a very powerful card, so I'll have to test out. Notion of the Starless Eternity, 5 mana to 6 mana. Yeah, I like this change. Granted, it was a very niche deck. Simply because, you know, some people are just, you know, play an artifact turn 1 and then play Dragonlark Neuralink and fly to the other board and just wait 1 turn until they play Notion of Starless Eternity, and, you know, they just get rewarded for that. Now they have to wait another turn, which I think is good, so they just don't go off, you know, a lot in the meantime. So good to see this change. Osirix got buffed from 7 mana to 6 mana, and its stats obviously reduced from 8/6 to 6/5, which is actually pretty good. For those that like Reliquarian, you can easily do this, right? So before you would have to do this on obviously on 7 mana, and then play Reliquarian on 8. Now you can do this a turn earlier, this on 6 mana, and Reliquarian on 8 mana. So you can do a lot of things with Sock now. This is a buff to Sock. Even though this was nerfed, you can do some more combo pieces with this. And this doesn't have to be limited to just Sock. You can use this in Xerix, right? In a Golem list. Get all those Golems back depending on what you get rid of. So you'll be able to have 6 attack buff to your general, so you have 8 attack when you use Reliquarian on this. And you can get all those minions back, which I think is great. So you can make Reliquarian Vetruvian a little bit more viable now, which is interesting. Moving on, Pantherin. Pantherin buffed from 6/6 to 8/8. You got to play every single one of the Science Wish spells before you can reduce its cost from 6 to 0. Yeah, 6 health is a lot easier to deal with than 8/8, obviously. So the reward is there. But it's interesting that they made it increase to 8/8. I remember Zootz playing a Pantherin deck to some pretty good success on ladder back in the day, but this is interesting to see. I'm surprised this hasn't happened super earlier. So this is pretty funny. Alright, Portal Guardian finally getting a buff again, I guess, after its nerf. Portal Guardian had 9 health back in the day, and then people realized, like, this is insane for a for a 3-drop. And then once new expansions came, it really didn't see that much play. Now they're giving it 8 health again, which is a lot. So I might try this out. This looks like a lot of fun. 8 health Portal Guardian, my god. I wonder why they did 8 instead of 9. I guess it's a little bit easier to deal with an 8 health minion, obviously, than a 9 health minion, but that's still a lot of health. Especially in the early game, you gotta invest some resources to get rid of it. Alright. Sand Sister Seon. 3/4 to 4/4. You're really not using this for the extra attack it gets from it. You're using this to just buff your general. So it's going to be tough to find all this room for a Sock. But I think it's a nice buff, but not really too impactful on how it's going to be used. Right? It avoids Plasma Storm. Not that people really played Plasma Storm against Sock. She's like full on artifact unless you get some golems with her. But it dies to Rebuke now, so Rebuke is getting buffed. All these changes look like buffs to Rebuke. So, Sandswell Reader. Okay, so this also dies to Rebuke, as I said earlier. Stats change from 3/4 to 3/3. So Rebuke kills it now, and I think this is a good buff, meaning that it. I'm surprised this wasn't like a 3/2. Because essentially, if it was a 3/2, right, and you develop board with it, we're getting 3/2 plus a 2/2, that is a 5/4. You're getting 9 points worth of stats plus removing a minion for 5 mana. So I'm surprised this wasn't like reduced a little bit more. But this means it can die to things like Phoenix Fire, Blood Tear Alchemist plus Punch, a lot of things. So it's a lot easier to deal with now, which is good. So this is a good change. The fact that it's still going to be run as a 3-up in my opinion, along with Blood of Air is a little bit insane. But yeah, this is a good nerf. I'm surprised this wasn't nerfed more. But yeah, because even at 3/2, I would imagine people would still run 3-of, right? You're getting a sand tile down, and that's the big thing, right? Whispers of the Sands no longer draws a card. Drawing a card was pretty insane, borderline broken. One of the best cards Vetruvian had, period. But you'll no longer draw a card, which is good, especially with all the obelisk and all the damage you can deal now with obelisk. So this is actually good nerf. So I'm happy to see that. I'd rather see this than just an increase to mana, because the fact that you can draw a card is insane. So it's good to see that. Windstorm Obelisk changed from 3 mana to 2 mana, and stats changed from 6 health to 4 health. Irrelevant. This is bad for a number of reasons. You're just better off sticking to your 6 minions, right? Your 6 2-mana obelisk minions, Lava Storm and Ethereal, and then your Fireblaze and Doomcaster. So I think you're already set on your number of 2-drops. But cool, I guess, if you're a budget player and you want to try out Vetruvian and you happen to get this, yeah, sure, go for it. Moving on to Abyssian, Aphotic Drain from 2 mana to 1 mana. I guess people are really trying to buff the Mave trial, right? The Zol trial. So they're trying to make it. I mean, usually you don't play multiples of these in one turn, but it does help the trial out a lot more. Personally, if you wanted the healing, Void Pulse is all around better because it gives you ping, it gives you damage, and it gives you health. 3 health. It's a 5-point swing, same just like Aphotic Drain, but it actually has more utility. So I think Void Pulse is just naturally better. I'm surprised they made this because it's not really that difficult to get to complete the Abyssian trial, right? But I guess you could do this while developing more board and keeping your health pool up as Mave, so that makes sense. But I don't know. People will run this in her trial regardless. The only thing that this does is it potentially allows you to play more cards in one turn. And seeing how those decks run like Consuming Rebirth, Blood Echoes, and obviously Darkfire Sacrifice. If they get the Darkfire Sacrifice off early, they're usually low on cards anyways, so this might, further burn their hand out even more so. Yeah. But it's nice that you have, if you can make this with like a Dying Wish list, right? Since Lurking Fear is back in Standard. Lurking Fear, going second, you can do Lurking Fear and Carrion Collector, and you don't have to take a mana top for that, so you got that going for it. Granted, those are 2 cards you're playing, so you're going to get really low on cards, so you need a lot of card draw for those Dying Wish / Trial decks. Yeah, moving on. Desolator, this is interesting. Desolator nerfed from 3 attack to 2 attack. This is a little bit more significant. Granted, you're just using this for the effect. Usually, whatever damage you happen to get in on this, I've very rarely traded with Desolator. Obviously, use this for the effect more. Slowly chip away your opponent while keeping your health pool high. Is always good. I don't think people are still going to run 3 of this. It's just such a good card, especially in the late game on 9 mana. As Cassava, you can just play this, ping it, play Desolator again. All right, Horrific Visage, 4 attack instead of 3 attack, or excuse me, minus 4 attack, minus 3 attack. Not that it really saw much play, anyways. Cool, I guess. It reduces Thunderhorn's attack down to 0, which is nice, I guess. And all those other Kron. I'll talk about Kron in a little bit, and it's important that I mention it. Kron down to 0. Lava Slasher, Mecanter, all those guys from Magmar down to 0 attack. Sure, I guess it's removal, but Abyssian already has. If you want to play control Abyssian, Cassava is your general, and she has cards like Munch now. So you have Demonic Lure, Necrotic Sphere, Punish, Munch. So really, you have a pretty good removal package there already. So you don't really need Horrific Visage, in my opinion. So. Night Fiend, stats buffed from 3/3 to 4/4. That's pretty good. Night Fiend does damage. It's a 5-mana minion. It does damage to things around Shadow Creep. I don't think you have enough room for it in Cassava. But if you wanted to run like that aggro list, whatever, with a little bit of removal, because it can damage to minions as well. If you wanted like an aggro creep list, you can definitely do that with this card, but it's a little bit expensive for 5 mana. And if you wanted to play like a Ghost Azalea list, you can definitely do that without this card. Skull Prophet, 3/3 to 2/4. People still won't play it, even though this is a nice buff. The extra health is nice, but the other Sentinels are just better. That's all I have to say. Sphere of Darkness, this is actually the biggest one for Abyssian. It's 2 mana now, so you can't, you know, what you can do in your turn is a lot more limited, and you can't choose where it places because the effects change to turn an enemy minion space into Shadow Creep, draw cards. So you can't go face with this, so you can't ping artifacts, which is one thing. And you can't play this to deny mana tiles, which is also big in the early game. So this is like a huge nerf. Will people use this? Yes. Do I recommend 3 copies? No. It's been hit that hard, unfortunately. There's things like Painful Pluck, which can generate more tiles if you have good card draw. Abyssian really relies on the card draw because a lot of their spells are cheap. So card draw is essential. This was what really kept them from running a whole lot more card draw, because this can just cycle itself, which is very good. Arguably one of the best, used to be one of the best cards Abyssian had. It could indirectly just win you games, right? You know, just drawing into what you need early on was so much value. So arguably the best card of Abyssian. Now it's one of not the worst, but it's just not really that good anymore, unfortunately. Sad to see it go. The releaser. This also means you can't do Sphere of Darkness plus on your general's face plus Tormentor on 7 mana and deal all that creep damage to your opponent. You can't do that anymore. And I see why they did that. Obviously, in this effect, they probably had that in mind, or they did have that in mind. But I would have liked this to at least, you know, try and contest artifacts and whatnot, contest mana tiles. I feel like you should have had liberty to choose where it goes, but oh well. Releaser from 3 to 2. This is actually the fact that you can play this early. You usually play this later in the game and get some value there from a minion that already died. I still think Nether Summoning is better because it's selective, and you get 2 of them. You can even get your opponent's minions, so you got an advantageous option there. So this is interesting. I don't think it's going to see too much play though. It might bring Smash the Hamster back. Seeing this, he might like to see this, but other than that, I don't think it means that much. Magmar Aspects Dreadnought from 4/6 to 4/7. That's actually a nice change. You know, that 7 health means it's a lot more difficult to deal with now. But yeah, I don't know if people will be able to have room to fit this in their deck. Flaming Stampede deals 8 damage instead of 5. Obviously a very nice buff, but I think Magmar already has a ton of removal as is, so Rebuke, Plasma Storm, Boss Brutality, Natural Selection, Upper Hand, Thumping Wave now again is back in the standard. Granted, this was a Shimstar card, I think. Was it Shimstar or was it Bloodbound? I forget. The point is that Magmar already has a huge removal package. This is just a bit excessive. Morincur, obviously, since it's back, you need to increase its mana. So if you want to do Morincur plus damage, that's an 8 mana combo, right? So your Egg plus Greater Fortitude, or excuse me, Egg, Morincur, hit, Greater Fortitude, for 15 damage is an 8 mana combo, and it's still insane. So yeah, and you can't ramp into that or anything, so you have to wait all those turns to do that. So you can make like a control Ragnar list if you wanted, with this as the win condition, and you can definitely do it that way. Omniseer can be used on any nearby space, as opposed to, what was it? Was it under a minion? I think it was under a minion. I don't know. But this is nice to see it getting a buff. And it's selective, it's not random. It's a big body for 4 mana, so yeah, it's definitely a buff for grow minions. And here's my favorite change. Silthar Elder. 6/6 to 7/7. I love Silithar Elder. It was one of my favorite cards when I first started the game back in beta. And it's really fallen off the map. Really, with all the new Magmar cards being introduced, like Juggernaut and whatnot, it just, those cards just, took the spotlight away from Silithar Elder. But I'm very happy to see this. So you can definitely make some egg decks work with this card now that it's a 7/7. It's a lot more difficult to deal with, and it can trade with EMP, which is big at the very least. Your opponent's like, hey, you got Silithar Elder, I'm going to drop my EMP. Kill it, and deal with it. But now it trades with EMP, because EMP is a 7/7 as well. So it's good to see that. I like that a lot. Tremor, 2/1, irrelevant. Moving on. Verdant Fulmination, 4/3. Trying to make grow decks work. Sure. Grow in of itself is just too slow. But if you're able to get it going, then power to you, and you can probably just win the game from there. Veteran Silithar, I like this. Veteran Silithar used to be like a huge staple back in the day. Then they nerfed it and changed the egg rebirth mechanic, and it hasn't seen play since. Now it might. Obviously, it shouldn't have five health like before. That was insane. 4/4 mana minion with rebirth. The 4 attack means it's pretty good, right? It's gonna have 6 health if you greater fortitude it, and it doesn't die to Phoenix Fire anymore, right? It doesn't die to what's that spell called? It doesn't die to Frostburn, which is also big, right? So yeah, it has a lot more resilience by having 4 health now, which I think is great. So I might try this out for nostalgia, out of nostalgia, and I like to see this change. All right, Visionar. Stats changed from 6/5 to 5/6. This card hasn't really seen a lot of play because it has a really bad stat. It dies to Phoenix Fire. It's every time your opponent draws a card, it gains +1, or when a player draws a card, not your opponent. When a player draws a card, it gains +1/+1. And if you dispel it, it's really not that hard to get rid of. It dies to Phoenix Fire, Bled to your Alchemist plus Punch, and it costs a lot of mana to play. But now you get a little bit more reward. It has a little bit, obviously very durable. Sacrifice. It has an increase to its overall stats. It has 11 points of stats as opposed to 9. 1 attack for 3 extra health. That's a fantastic. Maybe people will use this now because it's a pretty big threat. Even if you dispel it, it's a 5/6. Like, that's pretty big. So Visionar, I expect Visionar to see some play, simply because of this stat line, right? It's an investment, but if your opponent doesn't have an answer for it, it doesn't die to Rebuke, right? It doesn't die to Rebuke. It doesn't die to Plasma Storm. It's going to stick. Real ways to get rid of it would just be, hard removal. And if you're spending hard removal on this guy, that means other hard removal for other minions are like Decimus, EMP. That frees it up. And that's good to see. Visionar, I expect to see some play from this card. Okay, Vanar, Aspect of Shimazar, 2/3 mana. About time. Nothing more to be said. Essence Sculpt, 1 mana to 0 mana. This card never saw play anyway, so I still don't think it'll see play. Frigid Corona can only target minions now. It still draws a card. This is great. I don't have to get stuck up against the wall turn 1, going second, playing against Vanar. This is good. It's a lot less annoying, and this is what it really should have been from the beginning. Alright, Ice Age. 7/8 makes sense, right? So if you want to do Ice Age into Winter's Wake, you can't do that consecutively. You have to do that on 8 and then 9, unless you reduce the cost of these cards with Adjudicator, right? Or you just ramp really high. Mana Death Grip, 2 mana, about time. Really good to see. Dredger, from 3 mana to 1 mana. The card sucked, so it's good to see that anyways. Maybe this might see some niche lists, but Vanar artifacts are horrible anyways, outside of like Snowpiercer and White Asp. Like Cold Biter is like and all the epic ones, I forget what they were called. Winterblade, what's it, the Scythe, I think it's called the Scythe. Yeah, that's not that good either. But yeah, this might be a thing, I don't know. Wind Sister Mia changed to friendly minions with infiltrate have +1/+1. So rather than playing a minion when she's on the board, they gain +1/+1. So if Wind Sister Mia gets removed, those buffs are removed as well. So that's an interesting change. I wonder why they did that. Maybe because with all the Vesper interactions now, they might get out of hand and they wanted to control that a little bit. Makes sense. I see it. I got it. All right, neutrals. Almost there, guys. Ultric Rex, 4/4 to 5/5. Mechazor is pretty good as is right now, as you could develop multiple copies of it. Ultric Rex is a bit niche, a bit slow. Cool, I guess, but not really that impactful. Architect, T2K5, stats from 1/4 to 1/5. It survives Holy Immolation, and yeah, it's a good buff. It's very hard to deal with now, and I see why they increased its health, so it can stick around a little bit longer and hopefully get some more value from build minions. Artifact Hunter, 3/3 to 3/4. You're really using this just for the effect. I really only see this in Artifact High, and in my opinion, I knew some people that ran this, but I thought just good replaces and card draw was enough to draw your artifacts. But cool, I guess. Astral Crusader. Whenever you replace this card, it costs 3 less and gains +3/+3. It's bad. Same with Calculator, 5 to 4. It's nice, but playing Battle Pets is bad. Thunderhorn's still a thing, even though it is 4/4 now. Dialtus, Tombstone, 0/10 to 0/8. Nice, I guess, but I still think that's a little bit too much health. I think it should be like 5. Because this card's insane. It's a 5/3, and then it gains like another like 10 health essentially with Provoke. So I think this needs to be a little bit lower, but the attempt's there, so I appreciate that. EMP, Bout Time, 9/9 to 7/7. And I say this is great for a number of reasons. A lot of minions can trade into it because of the 7 health now. Elix Stormblade can trade with it. Silthar Elder, as I mentioned before, and just 7 health in general is not that hard to deal as opposed to 9, right? 9 is a very high number, right? Just look at old Lava Slasher, very difficult to deal with. Envy Bear, 3/7 to 3/10. It's an Ironcliff Guardian with removal built into it. It's like Repulsor Beast. Sends it to a corner. I don't think you'll see play unless you're playing like a Bond list, right? This can be great. This can actually be very good in Bond. Granted, that 5 mana slot is highly contested, right? There's War Exorcist, which is a 3/8 with the Holy Immolation effect in it. Ironcliff Guardian, obviously, and now this. There's also Impervious Giago, so you got a very contested 5 mana slot for Bond Dargian, and this can definitely step right in some further, because it's removal, right? You hit something, it gets sent to the other side. Downside is if you hit the enemy general, the general goes to the corner, and you have to run all the way to the other side, to that corner to hit him again. But usually, if it hits the general with Divine Bond, you're looking to finish him off. Grincher buffed, reducing artifacts by 3 instead of 2. That's big from whatever you pulled, right? Arcalite Regalia is 1 mana. Dawn's Eye is 2 mana. Snowpiercer is free. This is insane. We'll see if people decide to run this in their artifact list, but this is pretty significant, and we'll see how that goes. Hydrax, 3/3 to 3/4. Terrible card. Inquisitor Kron changed from 4/4 to 4/5, so back to its original stat line, which is fantastic. It can no longer produce a minion with force field, so Steve is gone. There's no more Steve, so feels bad. So press F if you feel bad for Steve in the comments. So press F there. So rip Steve, and this is literally, I can't believe it took him a couple years to figure this one out. Just get rid of the minion with get rid of Steve, and Kron's fine. I already built some decks with him inside because I love Kron as a card. I think it's fantastic. But yeah, there's no more Steve. You could definitely run him in Kara and get a lot of value there. He becomes a 5/6, and the mini you get is a 3/3. Fantastic. Yeah, love Kron. No more Steve. Feels bad, man. Lady Lock, 2/2 to 2/3 makes sense. You can definitely do some swarm shenanigans, and she'll stick, especially with Kara. She becomes a 3/4 now, making her that much more difficult to deal with, and means she doesn't die to Rebuke. But she still dies to what's it called? Plasma Storm. So gotta be careful there. Purgatos, 3/4 to 3/5. That's huge. It means it doesn't die to things like Holy Immolation, Mecanter, Lava Slasher, all that fun stuff. So Purgatos got a huge buff, and I'm happy to see this. Granted, I think he was fine as is, but this makes him a lot more competitive as a 4-drop, as opposed to everybody just using Thunderhorn. So yeah, I like this. I love Purgatos as a card, and I'm happy to see that. Alright, Sanguinar, your Bloodbound spell costs 0. I thought it always cost 0. Alright. Yeah. Soboro, bad. Spriggan, also bad, but the 8/8 is pretty threatening, so you might get some value there. Thunderhorn is, Thunderhorn nerf, that's big. Dies to Rebuke now. Sunsteel, 4/3 to 3/3, pretty big. And Zix changed from 1 to 2 mana. I think that's just to directly nerf Strategos, but I think all the Shimstar cards back in Standard is one way to deal with it. Yeah, these are disenchantable. And new skins. I'm definitely going for Zendo and Kron. Ooh, Ironcliff Guardian, that's cool too. I like all these. So all these cool skins in the shop for 1,500 spirit, so that's pretty good. Oh, I think there's Mark III General skins too. Or excuse me, Mark II General skins for the new Generals. Plus, Bloodbound spells for boss battles, cool I guess. And that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll do a live later today. Bye guys.